structure to adjacent lower density residential uses or zoning districts, or to adjacent commercial or industrial uses or zoning districts. When parallel orientation is necessary, building setback from the adjacent use or district boundary shall be increased by at least 50%. Does that make sense?
How does this apply regarding our current ordinances regarding buffering and setbacks between zonings? How is this different from what our current zoning ordinances are?
It's pretty similar. If we have a use that is very not residential.
You've got GB next to,
Well, not G, if you've got MF14 next to, say, LI, there's some huge setbacks. Unfortunately, the setbacks required in between GB and residential are not
as much as they should be.
as much as they should be, believe it or not.
So is this going to be that any usage that is not multifamily, this is going to be required?
Uh-huh. Except for single.
Well, yeah, anything other than other residential, well, it does say, yeah, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
How about if you've got a single family next to it?
It says lower density residential uses.
Mm-hmm.
So compared to our current ordinances, I guess that's my question. Compared to our current ordinances, you're saying, how would this be comparable? Is this more restrictive? I guess that's what I'm looking for. In which
It is.
situation is it more restrictive, and in which situations is it less restrictive than what we currently have?
This is more.
It's more restrictive because this is talking about building orientation. We don't
Right.
really address that at all currently.
Right.
And we do have parallel orientation and facing each other, that's, we don't have any additional setback required because of that. There's an added 50% increase, you know. So this is more.
This is.
I'm saying, I think it's a good thing, because this is the biggest complaint you hear from people that oppose multifamily development, is that they want to have, you know, where it's not going to be right on top of their backyard. So this would be a way to address residents' concern.
All we have
regarding-
now is standard cut dry setback and landscape
Landscape ordinance.
buffering, that's it.
Yeah, for buffering, yeah, that's all we have right now.
So,
And I think, gosh, it's
Nothing building
pretty
orientation.
low, it's kind of like 10%.
we're looking at village at Asbury, that's,
Mhm.
okay, that they're backing up to other residential.
Mhm.
It's not very dense
Mhm.
buffer.
Mhm.
What if we were allowed to put on a street, boulevard, a large median in the middle to kind of help break that apart?
A boulevard in the middle of the multifamily development?
No, you're separating
If
multifamily
there's a street
to your lower
between-
residential, so single
Oh.
family.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure, yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to have that.
Yeah, make a nice broad boulevard type.
I'm just thinking, some people, if they get a townhouse, which I don't know why they would go parallel with residential anyways, but
Well,
that way they don't have to
yeah,
have
we
long
have to add something in
driveways.
here then. That's not in here at this point.
Okay.
Can you add?
Yeah, this really
Can you
is,
rec-
yeah, this is
rec-
pretty generic. You're talking more if there is an actual street in between those two.
Yeah.
Between
I just-
low density residential, multifamily, or,
Right.
And that would count in the equation?
yeah, right now it doesn't distinguish,
Can
but
we-
yeah,
can
we'd
we
add
add
that
it?
in.
Right.
For example, right now, we've been talking about the Parkway Place by the village at Amesbury. There's Napoleon Drive. This makes no difference. You'd still have to do the 50% added, but you're saying if there is a drive in there, and you did some additional landscaping on
Yeah.
the boulevard, you wouldn't have to do 50%
Mhm.
building orientation issues.
Adding
That makes sense.
additional street.
Yeah.
Add some language.
Or 50%, or, I don't know. You can come up with something.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
Well, and I think this is a really good thing we're adding to what we currently have in ordinances.
Is
because
that going
this is-
to water this down?
I don't think
I
so.
like-
No.
I like the language that we have. To me, that strengthens, when we're talking about increasing the livability, the aesthetics, and the things that we've kind of been talking about, we want to make sure that we're not watering it down to the point that we're not really making any type of significant change.
Oh, no, this will not be watering it
Okay.
Yeah, this will
I mean, to me, this is a necessary change.
Yes.
If we're talking about
Yeah.
making for a better community.
Right.
Actually, I think of the boulevard, I mean,
Yeah.
either or, I think that's gonna beautify it by having landscaping besides
It's
just pushing things back.
just more
exactly.
street.
It's essentially putting that 50%.
It's more street that has to be maintained.
But it's shifting that 50%, that added setback
Right.
to the street, to the boulevard type approach.
Well, you have a
Who's
landscape
gonna
issue.
maintain,
That's your associations.
just as long as it's not something else that the city's taking on responsibility for, because we're struggling with maintaining the streets we have now.
Can we have some language drafted that we can look at, and then we'll make that decision at that point if we want to
More
change this?
concrete doesn't make it,
Pretty.
Well, I don't think you're really adding more concrete, well, a little more asphalt, but you're adding a landscape buffer. Whereas if you don't, all you're doing is adding more of a driveway and not really buffering the view
I'm wanting to improve
of it.
the aesthetics. I'm wanting to see a bettering of the community. That's,
Right.
to me,
Can you
that's the
provide a
whole
picture?
purpose of
And
this
that's
process.
that was brought up with Parkway Place discussion at Planning Commission and Council, was that you have a street separating it, but you don't have any added.
But you did nothing with the street, you didn't
Right.
add landscaping, you
There's no
didn't do
added
anything, you just stuck a
landscaping.
street in there, and
Exactly.
people backing up to that, that's not an asset to their
Right.
property
And
values.
What Michael's suggesting is adding something
Correct.
in addition to
And you're
just
gonna
the
need,
street.
right, make sure that it, includes all of the things that are gonna beautify the boulevard.
Well, and we can say
And
what
who's
type of
gonna
buffers
main-
required.
Who's gonna maintain the beautification of the boulevard?
Well, that's always within the CCRs.
I just,
We appreciate you pointing it out there, but it's kind of like detention
Yeah.
basins is gonna be part of.
just saying, we've got a lot
another
of
thing they got-
vegetation growing that doesn't seem to be well maintained.
And our new property maintenance code.
Property
We're
maintenance.
still having.
Yeah, I know.
I know exactly.
Is that our new project?
Dr. Brown
So,
was talking
no,
about.
no, you're not on that one, that's a different committee. Okay, so we will have a picture submitted of what exactly is gonna be required and language drafted for, it won't be our next meeting because we're going on the tour, but the meeting after that, our final meeting, which we need to talk about again. Okay,
Sheila, just so you know, I'm not gonna be able to go on the tour next week. I'm closing up accounts.
that's exciting. Okay, security and crime prevention. Do you have a copy of this? This is incorporating some of the ideas that we were given last week.
Do you
Oh,
do these
yes,
or-
yes, I'll go through this. Site planning should integrate the principles of crime prevention through environmental design, also known as CPDED.
Something.
SUPTED. To the maximum extent practicable. Applicants are encouraged to consult with the Blue Springs Department, with the
Yeah,
Blue
that's
Springs.
Springs,
Yeah, Blue Police
Police.
Department, to the Blue Police Department.
I will paint my face for everything.
All this.
And the Community Development Department regarding the implementation of SUPTED principles. These principles include, number one, territoriality. Thank you. Space within the development and along the edges should be well-defined and delineated to create a sense of ownership such that intruders and strangers stand out. This may be accomplished through the use of pavement treatments, landscaping, art, signage, screening, fencing, and similar techniques. 2, natural surveillance. An environment should be created where it is possible for people engaged in normal behavior to observe the spaces around them. Space visibility should be maximized through thoughtful design of building orientation, window placement, entrances and exits, landscaping of trees and shrubs, and other physical obstructions. Nighttime illumination of parking lots, walkways, entrances, stairwells, and related areas should be utilized to promote an environment in which natural surveillance is possible. One of the things that's most important in natural surveillance is to have eyes on the street. So when you have your doors and you have your windows open up to a street area, you have more visibility, you can see more of what's going on. You can hear, kids running down the road, you can hear if somebody's making a ruckus, you can hear if somebody's getting into your neighbor's garage, that whole, there's this